Gracious God, may the words of my mouth, the meditations of our hearts and our minds, our very spirits, may they be acceptable to you, O God, our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. Well, I want to do something this morning which I've never done before as a public service announcement. I want to make a suggestion for your Halloween costume this year. If not for you, then maybe for your children, and if not your children, then maybe even your dog. But before I give you my suggestion, I want us to take a quiz. What do you think is the #1 most popular Halloween costume for 2019?
Donald Trump.
It is not. It is Elsa, the princess from Frozen. I had to think for a second. Does anybody know what the #2 most popular costume is? #2 through #5 are all superheroes. Superheroes in no particular order. That is Iron Man, Wonder Woman, Batman, and Spider-Man. All created from DC or Marvel Comics. But here's the thing that you may not know. Marvel and DC Comics, each of which started in the late 1930s, did not create the superhero genre of do-gooder wearing a mask and a cape. The very first such character was created in 1919, almost 30 or 20 years prior. Does anybody know who the first superhero was? Zorro! Exactly right. Zorro. And so we have inherited our superhero genre from Hispanic heritage. Indeed, it was Zorro who first started to fight for those that were the most vulnerable among us and to protect them with his trusty steed, Tornado. Kids love superheroes. They want to be one, which is why, of course, the costumes are so popular. Not just on Halloween, but all year long. But for some reason, as we grow older, the allure of being or aspiring to be a superhero begins to fade. Maybe it's because we just don't feel so super. Maybe we feel that we are too flawed to be a superhero. Maybe we feel the forces of mayhem and injustice, they're just too big to overcome. It's a shame, because in many ways the qualities of a superhero are the same qualities that are needed to be a super person of faith. For example, Paul says to be a super person of faith, we must not repay evil for evil, but always seek to do good to one another and to all. And I'm sure you know that each superhero has a tragic backstory. Superman's planet was destroyed in an act of violence on a cosmic scale. Batman's parents were murdered in front of Bruce Wayne. Spider-Man's Uncle Ben, whom Spider-Man lived with, Peter Parker, was also murdered. Such personal tragedies and losses could make a person cold-hearted. It could make a person angry and bitter and want to repay evil for evil. But what makes Superman and Batman and Spider-Man superheroes is that they do not repay evil for evil. Instead, the violence and evil perpetrated against them and their loved ones only strengthened their resolve to do good. It widened their heart. It didn't close their heart. And in all of their superhero daring do, they never resort to deadly violence themselves. Somehow, they manage to corral and capture the villain so that the villain can then face the justice of the law. If we are to be superhero type people of faith, we must do the same. If someone hurts us, someone disappoints us with words, with deeds, we must not seek to wound in return, to lash out, to tweet out with our own hurtful words or acts. Instead, we must, like a superhero, double down. Double down on our commitment to compassion, to strive to be peacemakers. Another essential quality of being a superhero or a great person of faith, according to the prophet Micah, besides doing justice and loving kindness, is to walk humbly. To walk humbly with God. Superman and Spider-Man, now they could be worshipped. They could be famous, they could be uber wealthy if they use their superpowers towards their own benefit. If they serve their own ego rather than the greater good. But what makes them superheroes is that they do not. They prefer to do their good anonymously, behind the scenes, nor do they use their powers for personal financial gain. Instead, Superman, with all the power in the world, as Clark Kent, works as a bungling reporter, meek and meek. Peter Parker, Spider-Man, works as a photographer, and later on, as a teacher of chemistry. Despite their strength and their power and their unique super abilities, they have chosen not to seek to be served, but choose to become like servants of the most vulnerable among us, just as Jesus did with all of his power. Just as Jesus implores that all of his disciples must do also. These qualities, not repaying evil for evil, but doing good to all, being a servant to and an advocate for the most vulnerable among us, doing justice, loving kindness, walking humbly with God and with one another, these are the things, the qualities that makes one a superhero. It's not superpowers that make you a superhero. It's these qualities that make you a superhero. And you don't need to be perfect. You don't need to be perfect to be a superhero. Clark Kent is a deeply flawed newspaper reporter. Peter Parker is always missing important meetings, and the disciples, well, we all know that they also are deeply flawed. They often fail Jesus. They fail one another. Perfection is not possible. Not even for a superhero. But what is possible is the determination to continue as best we can to transform personal pain into a commitment to the greater good. To try as we can to bend, not steal with our bare hands, but hatred into respect and understanding, apathy into a deeper compassion, hopelessness into faith and joy. And so, as it turns out, even Zorro wasn't the first superhero. The disciples were. People of faith were, that exhibited these qualities, that lived out the words of the prophet Micah. And comic books didn't originate the superhero genre. The Bible did. And after all this, perhaps you've noticed, I still haven't given you my suggestion for the Halloween costume, although it may be obvious at this point. I suggest that you choose to be a superhero. But I want you to do more than simply wear that costume. I want you to embody that persona. I want you to channel your inner superhero. I want you to take and make these qualities a part of your everyday life. My hope, of course, is that if you can do these things for just one night on Halloween, that maybe it starts to become a habit. A habit. And that habit continues into your everyday life. The cape and the mask and the tights are optional. But let us all be superheroes. Amen.